Alrighty, it is exactly 1900 Eastern Standard Time. Hello, everybody. Welcome to video number 9 of our MSC IPP series. My name is Lieutenant JG Aaron Abreu. I'll be co-hosting tonight with a special guest, and our topic for today is about personal statements. This is by no way, in any way, shape, or form, sponsored by the Department of Defense, by the United States Navy, or the Medical Service Corps. Any thoughts or opinions expressed in this specific broadcast is by yours truly, as well as my lovely co host tonight, Lieutenant JG Myles, who I'm going to bring in right now. Lieutenant JG Myles, you want to say hi to everybody?
Absolutely. Greetings, everyone. Lieutenant JG Kiana Miles. I thank you for tuning in. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of the show. I call it a show because I think that Aaron here makes a great but I truly am grateful for the opportunity. You know, one of the hallmarks of being a medical service corps officer is leadership through service. And I think that this platform epitomizes that. So thank you. Thank you. I hope you guys learned something today and I'm excited. I'm ready.
Perfect. Thank you so much, JG Miles. Okay, so just as a reminder for everybody, this platform we're using a something different in Zoom. So in this specific platform, we can actually see your comments and questions, and I can drag it onto the screen so both myself and JG Miles can see it. So if you would like to pose a question during our discussion, please feel free to do so. And to our senior medical service corps officers that are watching right now with us, if you have any thoughts or opinions, or you would like to correct us or add on to something, feel free to jump into in the comments as well. And we'll be more than happy to share that to the group. And like JG Miles said, this is all about giving back and sharing the knowledge that we do have. So without prolonging it, let's get into it. JG Miles, I'm going to give you the floor, and you'll start. JG Miles is going to talk about her journey about the personal statements, because I know for a fact this was, I think, I can speak for every single MSc IPP applicant that this has been the most tedious, and like I try to avoid it at all costs. And I think this was the last one that I did because it's just so hard to write about yourself and without sounding too braggy or, you know, making sure you're within the 200 to 250 words. So JG Miles, I'm going to give you the floor, and please share to us what you thought about share your process to us about the personal statements.
Absolutely. So, like you've alluded to, the personal statement is definitely one of the hardest aspects of putting together your package, in my opinion, as well. But the good thing about the personal statement is it's your opportunity to tell the board why they should select you. Interview appraisals, evals, CO's recommendations, your letters of recommendations, those are all subjective. So those are from the writer's perspective. And so this gives you the opportunity to, again, just share your perspective with the board as to why they should select you. So where should you start? Before you start typing on the infamous OpNav 1420.1b, I personally recommend creating just a blank Microsoft Word document and answering the following questions. So the first question is, why did you join the Navy? Why do you want to become a naval officer? Why do you want to become a blank? And then fill in the blank with your desired specialty. What have you done throughout your career that's in direct alignment with your desire to commission? What strengths do you have that will make you a great naval officer? What attributes do you have that will make you a great, and then fill in the blank with your desired specialty again? And what do you want to accomplish as a naval officer? These questions are so important. Again, it can be very tedious, very hard to really draft a personal statement. It seems like it's a lot easier when you have to, talk about other people, but when it's time to talk about yourself, it's kind of hard. So I think these questions, if you answer them thoroughly, they definitely just provide a great outline for a lot of the information that you're actually going to include in your package. So that's kind of how I started. with this, when you're answering the questions, you don't try to make it fancy initially. You're trust me when I say you're going to go through several drafts. I went through at least 10 myself. So again, just answer the questions and remember, as you're answering these questions, this is only the step one, honestly. This is the beginning. So, Aaron, are you able to pull up my statement or can they see it already?
It is there right now.
Okay. So once you've answered those questions and you've kind of drafted it, I also recommend then, creating another Word document and actually typing in each of the prompts here. So your reason for applying. So your reason for applying, speak about your desire to want increased responsibility. Remember, you're applying to be a naval officer first. Also, this is your opportunity to speak about any relevant experience that you have. So, a lot of people always ask, where can I put my internship experience or my shadowing opportunities? Anything that you've done in the civilian sector. And this is a great spot to kind of highlight that experience. Then it says personal and professional goals. So, these goals, again, should directly align with how you can propel Navy medicine and the military health system forward. This isn't the place to annotate your desire to purchase a home, for example. Essentially, these goals should benefit Navy medicine, the military health system, and the medical service corps. A good example is, maybe if you want to attend Naval War College or if you want to obtain your PMP certification. These are things that I definitely would highly recommend you add in to this goal section here. Then you have your strengths and personal characteristics. So very simplistic, explain your strengths, explain how you're going to use your experience and strengths as a naval officer. For example, I have in my personal statement, being attached to multiple expeditions and joint assignments has given me the fortitude to manage both arduous and routine situations. So, you really just need to break down the prompts and answer each one as best as you can. And I think, again, if you start with just answering those questions, it'll definitely help you. And after you answer those questions and you kind of have a good rough draft, that's when you can kind of lean on your mentors because your mentors are the people that are going to help you kind of craft your personal statement so that it speaks to the board. They'll help you with the fancy wording. I know my mentors definitely did, but they definitely want to see if you have a great foundation. So just make sure that you have that foundation. I think that's something else that really, really helped me kind of be able to speak like a naval officer, so to speak, is just really staying abreast on what's going on in Navy medicine. It's extremely important. The CNO's 2021 navigation plan just came out. It has a lot of great
Mm-hmm.
insight on head. I was looking at it, I was like, man, this is pretty good. And I think that it would definitely be worth the read because it'll help you as you craft your statement. So just little things like that. Again, I always speak about Mill Sweet Connect. I am a Mill Sweet Connect fan, but I think that it is a great tool. It has a lot of great information, and it's what I personally found to be extremely helpful when just staying up to date on what's going on. So that was kind of my experience and how I crafted my statement. Again, this statement is yours. I know it's a 200 to 250 word limit. There's a lot of mixed perspectives on that. Some people say, "Oh, you should definitely stay in the 250 word limit." I will say that honestly, my personal statement is over the 250 word limit. And what I was told was if it's going to be over the 250 word limit, it better be good. So I definitely, it's up to the person. Again, everyone will kind of have their own perspective on that. Some people are like, no, it has to be 250 words. But again, it's your package.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, that's really important as well, is just, remembering that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter the opinions that you get when you're writing your statements. You have to really just feel comfortable with what you're submitting. So I personally felt comfortable with it, even though it was a little over. So yeah, that's just my perspective.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, JG Miles, because I'm on the opposite side of the discussion here. And let me bring it back to us side by side on the screen. This is not a debate, everybody. So, but this is good though, because you're seeing two sides of what's being discussed within the community. And just like for those of you for the E6s, the first class petty officers in the group, it's chief board season, right? And everybody has their own take into the chief's package. I feel it's the same way in this specific MSC package. So JG Miles pointed out she exceeded a 200 to 250 word limit, but she pointed out two things there. One, it is hers, so she chose to do it that way. But two, you need to make sure that it has great content. On the other side of the coin, I would like to offer that because that's one thing that was hard for me too. Like, what can you say in 200 to 250 words? I mean, that's not enough to capture things that you want to tell the board, right? Because when we're writing, especially what you were saying, like just start out. I think my first draft was like 3 pages. How can you do 3 pages single spaced into 200 250 words? And I asked my mentors, and one of them said, the reason why the board wants you to write 200 to 250 words, one of the things that they look at as a prospective officer is your writing skills. As a future naval officer, I didn't believe this at first, right? When I was trying to get into is that you're going to write a lot of instructions and policies, especially as healthcare administrators. Since I've commissioned, I cannot tell you how many policies and instructions I've written. And when you're briefing senior officers, majority of them want straight to the point and succinct, but you have to hit those key points as well. So on here, let me bring it back to the statement screen. There's 3 questions, and how can you hit the nail on the head by answering those questions? So to me, I did it in 200 to 250 words. My process was the same as Lieutenant JG Myles as well. I did the web diagram. For those of you that are watching, I don't know if you when I was going through college, I'm a web diagram kind of person. Main idea, right here, and right there. But capitalize on this personal statement as she was mentioning, because you can really highlight yourself on this specific one, but don't try to avoid the temptation of copying and pasting from your evaluations. And I think that was my first mistake. For this, if you, I think I keep repeating this on the videos on my previous packages, I've made the mistake of copying an opening line statement from my E5 eval, and then my chief eval, and then my E6 eval. Yeah, that sounds good. That's my opening statement. But I keep forgetting, oh, wait, the board sees everything. The board sees my previous eval, so they're going to hear the same thing over again. So take this opportunity to show the board what else don't they know about you. That's why it's called a personal statement. And another thing that I wanted to point out too that she said is don't yes, it says their personal and professional goals. I laughed when you said don't put like that you're buying a house or anything, because I did see it, because it's kind of confusing, right? Because they want to know your personal goal. Well, what if that is your personal goal? But remember, try to how your personal goal that at the same time aligns with the Navy still. So if your personal goal is to get another PhD, how would that align to the Navy, right? Well, getting a PhD, you can be a professor, or you can teach as well. For those of you that don't know, a healthcare administrator subspecialty is education and training. So that might be useful for that specific community. So yes, that is my personal goal as PhD. But oh, by the way, Big Navy, this is what I'm giving back to you because I'm meeting this personal goal. So it's at the end of the day is how can we contribute to Big Navy?
Yeah, I think that's great. And then, just along the lines with that, we just got new FitRep guidance that states that lifelong learning is now a key element. So, including those educational goals and so forth, again, it's nothing wrong with it, but just make sure that it aligns with the Navy. I think that that's the most important thing. I've heard a lot of people at operational commands, maybe say things like they don't have access a lot of the times to MillSuite Connect and just various resources that you would have advantage of if you were on shore duty. And what I tell a lot of people, what I found to be helpful is just really, using that as a conversation starter to senior officers, because while you may not receive the instructions directly, a lot of those senior MSCs, the pad officer, admin O, et cetera, they're seeing a lot of this information. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with going up to, an officer and saying, "Hey, sir, I'm really interested in becoming a medical service corps officer, specifically a healthcare administrator. Are there any new instructions or NAV admins that have came out in the last week or so that you think would be beneficial for me?" I use that method as well when I was on the ship. Even though I had already been selected, I still just wanted to stay abreast on what's going on. So those are great conversation starters. Before I commissioned as a HM2, there was not an officer at Fort Belvoir that didn't know that HM2 Miles wanted to become an HCA. I was asking to go to meetings. I was asking, to essentially just be a part of any organization that was officer affiliated that I could, so that I could learn the language, so that I could, ask the right questions and so forth. So I think that's extremely important.
Yeah, that's a very good point that you made as well, JG Miles, is the keeping abreast, right? The surgeon has the four P's, and I think Captain Boyce on on our second video when he talked about CO's recommendation is, do you know a surgeon general's four P's? Can you talk on that? And I think one of my mentees right now, that's one of the assignments that I gave my mentee, is research that. And how can you, right? A lot of people get turned off that, oh, well, I'm not a corpsman, so I won't be able to speak on that. If you read those four P's, it actually applies to every single sailor in the United States Navy. And that's the only way that you can find that out, is if you're keeping abreast of what's going on. This is a plug to our MSC IPP page. If you go on there and you look at the topics, right, we created a tools thing on there. So anytime somebody posts like a topic about DHA or Navy Times article or a PDF about the plan moving ahead, strategic plans, take a look at that and try to use that, as she mentioned, as a conversation starter. Hey, sir, I didn't understand this specific one, because I know for a fact, I'm not going to lie to all of you, some of those are way above my head sometimes. And sometimes I have to pull up the Merriam-Webster dictionary and like, wait, what is that word again? Okay, got it. Because you need to be able to speak on that too to your sailors, right? As a future naval officer, as a future division officer, we are tasked to communicate these guidance from CNO, from Surgeon General, to our junior sailors. And how can you do that if you can't understand yourself, right? The instructions that are being put out there, the new nav admin? Because I can guarantee you right now, when they see the collar, what's on your collar device, they expect a lot of things, like such as, oh, JG Miles probably knows about this because she's an officer, right? She has a master's degree. She knows what this is.
Mhm.
What this is talking about. So those are good key points of trying to help build your personal statements. Another thing too that I wanted to discuss with the personal statements, and let me see if I can pull it up here, is the for those of you that have not read the book, Start With Why, right? Simon Sinek or Sinek. Okay, if you have read the book, put it in the comments. I would love to hear them. Start With Why is an amazing book. And Chief Tristan McCulley, if you're here, thank you for sharing that. He's an amazing chief hospital corpsman that started the Corpsman Inspiration Group. And he talks about start with why all the time. And I read that while I was underway, and it opened my eyes. And I wish I had this book when I was building the personal statement, because it went to the heart of, why are you trying to do what you're doing? Are you just doing it because everybody else is doing it, because all your friends are commissioned? Are you doing it for the money? Well, is the money the end goal? Why the money part, right? So the book goes deep, right? Goes deep into just beyond the riches and the money and the fame, because there's another motivating factor of why you want to have like that good life, right? So if you haven't done so, if you haven't learned anything from the broadcast for the past like 15 minutes, then write down the book, Start With Why, okay? And also, it has a complimentary book, right? So a lot of people ask, like, hey, now that I read your book, how do I find my why? Well, he created a book too that says, here's the step by step to find your why. I love the book so much that I read those two books in a matter of like a week and a half. Like I couldn't put it down. And I share it to my sailors all the time because it allows them to go back and find their purpose of why they're doing what they're doing. So it allows you also to see is what pathway do I want to go to. Maybe you're that sailor right now that's watching. Well, I really don't know what specialty I want to get into yet. I'm not sure if I want to do POMI. I'm not sure if I want to do generalist as a healthcare administrator. Oh, by the way, I kind of want to do PA as well, physician assistant. That's normal. I don't want you to think that just because you can't make up your mind right now that you're a bad sailor, that you're never going to be a naval officer. Because I can tell you right now, there's a lot of Mustangs that had that same thought, right? But finding your why will help you guide to your personal statements. That's one thing that I think that I would go back to if I were to rewrite my personal statement again. Another thing that I would like to bring up too in terms of writing the personal statement is when you're answering the questions, right? Try to be as truthful as you can at first, but at the same time, try grab what the Navy's goals are as well, right? The Navy strategic plans, and kind of tie those two in and mesh them together, right? So on one side, have like Navy's goals right here, and then right here, answer all the questions. Then mesh those two together, and you'll come up with those statements, right? There are certain key phrases on here that, for those of you that watch our previous videos, Commander Mo Taylor, right? One thing that was in my previous statements, I keep saying, I will bring excellence to the Medical Service Corps. Now, to me, I didn't think that that was anything wrong with that, right? But to him, his eyes as an expert board recorder, he said, he looked at me and was like, oh, so Chief, I guess there's no excellence in Medical Service Corps right now. And I just looked at him and said, oh, no, that's not what I meant, sir. Well, that's what I got from it. You said you're going to bring excellence to the table. It's in your personal statement. So what one thing that changed that tone, he said, don't worry, like that's why we're here. We're mentoring, right? One thing that changed that tone is I will continue to bring excellence into the medical service corps community. So just by adding that word continue, it changed the tone so much. So read it out loud, read it to somebody, read it to a stranger, or say, hey, how does this sound? Does this sound too braggy a little bit? Am I sounding like, am I making sense on here? So try to do that when you're crafting your personal statements. Okay. JG Miles, you want to
Absolutely.
add?
I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. No, I was going to say, do you want to add anything to that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I think that's something that you definitely mentioned that I kind of wanted to hone in on a bit more is, really making sure that you take the time to read. A lot of the times, I think that a lot of sailors, they kind of get discouraged or, turned away when officers often say, hey, you need to read the instruction, or, say, hey, you need to go back and read this so that you can ensure that you're staying abreast. And I think, as being a prior enlisted sailor, it's because a lot of the times, I know for me, I was an HMC before I commissioned. So I'm used to, the chief or the first class that's really doing a lot of the heavy lifting, honestly. So I think that sometimes we kind of get in this mindset where when people say, hey, read or do this or do that, we kind of think that they're being mean and they're not being helpful. And so I just wanted to just kind of talk about that a bit because it's not that at all. As previously mentioned, as a naval officer, I cannot tell you how many instructions, documents, just different reading material that I get in my inbox daily. I can't tell you the number of PDs that I've written prior to commission. I've never written a position description in my life. So when you become a naval officer, you're it. I think that a lot of the times people think, oh, I'm just applying to be a PA or I'm just applying to be a laboratory scientist. And that's why when I mentioned the breakdown of your why, you have to answer why you want to be a naval officer first. Because aside from the specialty that you're applying to, you're a naval officer first. And so that's extremely important to remember because, a lot is going to be expected of you. The fact that you're new, that, you're an ensign or you're a JG, it doesn't matter. My first tour, I this is my first tour as a HCA department head of healthcare business. This position at a lot of MTFs is a director level position. I don't have an assistant, it's just me. I got in on a Monday. On Friday, they said, "Hey, are you going to be ready to brief the executive steering committee on Friday?" So it's no joke. So I had to, read a lot to get spun up on what I needed to do. So that's why a lot of the times when you ask naval officers for help, we always redirect you to read. We're not being mean. Again, we're honestly trying to help you and prepare you because if you can't do it now, you're not going to be able to do it when you commission. When you commission, you're not going to instinctively say, "Oh, okay, yeah, now it's time to read." No, you need to start now. You have to start thinking like a naval officer. You have to start doing the things that naval officers do, and when you start doing that, people, I've seen in my experience, they definitely pour a lot more into you in terms of really helping you out, and, going that extra mile. But you have to be willing to put in the work.
Awesome. Thank you for that, JG Miles. And I'm glad you mentioned about like reading. A lot of people that are trying to join our MSC IPP group, if they have questions, I tell them, have you visited the frequently asked questions? Have you watched our like YouTube videos? Because most of those, there's a lot of hidden gems in there. And it just showcases your determination to really want to learn as well into the office and knowing more about the community that you're trying to get into. So thank you for that. Thank you for covering those, JG Miles. I just want to go onto some comments on here. There was
Mhm.
one comment on here. I don't think people can see it, but it says, "I like how your statement touches slightly on your personal family goals and jumps back into your career." Great statement, ma'am. So that's awesome. And then it says here, "Great information and thank you. Thank you." I don't see the names of who posted it on here. And somebody said, network. I think that is totally true. Networking is going to bring a lot of value to you. Also, you might meet somebody like Mo Taylor. I met him through networking, through Zai, who introduced me to Mo Taylor. And that's through networking as well. But one thing that I did want to touch on too is with the personal statement, right? You're going to draft this up multiple times, and feel free to chime in on this one, JG Miles. So you're going to draft this multiple times, and you're going to want to give this to multiple people, right? There's this just inkling in you, like, oh wait, oh, I saw this lieutenant on Facebook. I'm going to send it to him. Oh, I'm going to send this to my XO. Oh, I'm going to send it. So you're having a lot of people review this package, and then you take all their changes together. Just be careful of not saturating it and your voice gets lost in the personal statement. So if it's Aaron Abreu speaking in the personal statement, it shouldn't sound like JG Miles, right? JG Miles comments, I will take it on there, but you shouldn't grab everybody's statements to where it doesn't sound like you anymore, right? And the reason why I say that, again, I'm going to reference one of my mentors. He read my appraisals. He put the appraisals, right? All three, four of them, right? Four appraisals, and then my personal statement. He said, okay, these people saw something during your interview, and you're not communicating that in your personal statement, right? So that was an eye opener for me because it's like, oh, that's true. Like I was almost like lying in a personal statement because these are, and granted, yes, I think we talked about this before the call to G Miles. Yes, we quote unquote plagiarize and repeat because we don't like reinventing the wheel. So we're going to grab that closing statement because it sounds good and then grab it in the middle. There's nothing wrong with that. But you still need to put your own twist to it and it still needs to sound like you. Thoughts on that one, JG Miles?
I definitely agree 100%. The board, again, they're going to see multiple things that you put in that package. So I think that it's important that everything aligns, right? And if these people are saying these great things about you, these senior officers, your personal statement needs to be reflective of that as well. My hidden gem for my personal statement was Miss Kemp. A lot of people are intimidated by Miss Kemp, but Miss Kemp has a wealth of knowledge. She was extremely helpful. She's been on more boards than anyone I know.
I think
um,
everybody. Yeah.
yeah. So she is definitely well versed and knows exactly what the board is looking for. So she was extremely helpful for me. Thank you for the compliment of the great statement. But again, that's not all me that wrote that statement. If I'm being 100% honest, while I had a great layout, Miss Kemp is the one that really helped me to get the correct verbiage and to speak like a naval officer, right? Because the board, these are senior officers on the board. They know and they can tell when you've networked and you've gotten the help that you need to really craft a great statement. And that's honestly something that they're looking for. And that's what Miss Kemp told me as well. So yeah, that's all I would like to add for that.
All right, thank you. Yeah, and I remember the thing that you just mentioned, Commander Scory on one of our videos mentioned that too. Is the board doesn't expect you to be a ready-made naval officer, but they
Mhm.
do expect you that you're heading towards that way, right? So, do they expect you to be like a super perfect naval officer, right? Not necessarily, but they want you to at least head to that direction that when you commission next month after ODS, you're ready to take on, like you mentioned, a division as a division officer or as a department head, because those roles will come to you because you are, that's it, you're it, right? There's no, yes, you have the chiefs and everybody, but you're it, right? The XO, the next person that you report to, like right now in my job as a medical admin officer, is yeah my senior medical officer, and then the XO. I see him on a daily basis, and it's part of that too. Part of that, luckily for me, is like the preparation of the networking that we keep harping on and knowing what's going on in the Navy medicine world. So awesome. All right.
Absolutely. And I just would like to mention I actually don't have a chief or first
Oh
class or
wow.
any.
Okay.
So yes.
So I would call
You
myself fortunate. So to the
yes.
yeah, to the chief petty officers in the first class in the video, like hands down to these individuals and the second classes, right? Honestly, the enlisted crew that really makes the naval officer's life easy. I know this is personal statement. We'll have another topic on enlisted and officer working relationship, but they do bring a lot of value into it. So I personally gave mine to one of my senior chief mentors, Senior Chief Dave Wisk. He actually reviewed my statement as well, and he put in his 2 cents of the leadership aspect into it. So he read it and said, "Hey, I'm not a naval officer, but I feel like you're missing the leadership." So don't think that you just have to go to naval officers. Don't forget, you have deck plate leaders who are their main job is to train junior officers. They build the next commanding officers and groom the next executive officers, right? And that's the job of the chief's mess. So feel free to pick their brains and say like, hey, what do you think about this? Is there anything that I can adjust on that one? So thanks for bringing that. And now let's open it to Q&A. Do we have any questions from the group? We're seeing your comments on here. Is there anything that you want us to clarify on, or anything that you would like to ask your group, or if you want to add on to it, if you're a MSC officer and you would like to add on to it, feel free to do so, and we'll drag the comments on there. We'll give you a few minutes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Right, Jeopardy. Wait, is there a sound? I think there's a sound on here. Oh, that's a party noise. Whoops. I need to download like Jeopardy noise on here and stuff. But
Yeah.
okay, I'm not seeing anything come in on here, but thank you for the people that tuned in tonight with us. We really appreciate it. I personally like doing this. I think this is my favorite part of being a naval officer is being able to give back to the people, because I consider this an opportunity. Me wearing the twig and a bar on my collar device is a grand opportunity. But yes. Oh wait, hold on. Before we close off, there's a question on here. Is there a medical journal mostly read? I'm not sure what that. Do you? Yeah. Do you see that question, JG Miles? Is there a medical journal mostly read?
So I would definitely say the Rudder. The Rudder is like our MSC newsletter. I don't know if maybe that's what you're referring to, but I think that the Rudder is extremely helpful. I also utilize the Rudder, and I'm probably one of the few nerds that still prints out the Rudder and highlight. I like it. I like the Rudder.
That's smart. Hey, that's the rudder is you see a lot of the other MSCs in the different parts of the world. I'm like, oh, I
Absolutely.
didn't know there's people in Korea. Hello. So
But yeah, the Rudder is a really good resource. I think that aside from just keeping you up to date on just various things that are going on, you kind of learn a lot of the MSC history, which is why I still personally enjoy it because I am still brand new. So I'm always, just trying to learn about the medical service corps as a whole. And I think that the Rudder is a great opportunity. Also, I have used the Rudder to reach out to officers. So when I
hmm
was starting out, and I didn't really know, a lot of other MSC officers. I would just like look at the Rudder and find them in Global and send them an email and say, "Hey, I actually seen your name in the Rudder." And a lot of them, they'd be like, "Wow, that's never happened before,"
yeah.
but they'd
Yeah.
be willing to help. So it's a great way. Sometimes you definitely just have to put yourself out there, and it's really that's networking.
Yep.
So it can definitely be a great networking resource.
Yeah, and that speaking of the rudder, somebody said, I couldn't find the rudder. I tried to find the rudder, but couldn't find it. Where can it be accessed? It's in the mill suite that JG Miles was talking about. And if you have a Mustang in your area, they should be able, MSC at least, MSC officer, I'm sorry, not Mustang, but an MSC officer in your area, they should be able to give that to you as well. Oh, wow. Now the questions are coming in. No, we like these questions and everything. So I'll just go down the line of the order they're coming in. It says here, will there be a Google Classroom this year? Ah, I can tell that you've been in the MSC IPP group for a while. The Google Classroom, for those of you that don't know, that's where we did the package review, but we didn't find it too intuitive. But if you look into the MSC IPP page on the top announcements portion, I made a little go by on there. It's still active where you can actually fill out a form, and then I give you access to a Google Drive, and there's a bunch of MSC officers on there that will comment on your PDF scanned package. So that's on there. So thank you for asking that. Another question, and I think you can take this, JG Miles. Also like to add also use the continued section for additional remarks for NJP, low grades, or anything you'd like to explain further from evaluations to give the board a full scope of your obstacles and how you overcame them. That's a good point. Yeah. Did you use yours, JG Miles?
I did not, but I actually utilized one of my letters of recommendations to explain a eval. So I think that that is also a great way to explain something that someone told me that kind of always stuck with me is, the board can only see what you give them, right? So if it says here that you went to NJP, or if it says here that you're below the CO summary group average, that's all the board can see. They don't understand why, they don't know why, and it's not their job. And they're not going to call you and ask you, hey, what happened? So it's your job to explain. And so I used a letter of recommendation as my format for explaining an eval, like I stated. So yeah, I think that again, if it's something that's questionable, if it's anything in your package that may be questionable, explain it.
Yeah, very good. And speaking of LOR, somebody asked, how would you recommend tackling the LOR? Should it be tailored towards personal characteristics, officer potential, career achievements? To that, I would say we have a full episode on letters of recommendation on our YouTube videos. It's also in our MSC IPP page. If you click on videos, it was our co-host with that one is Lieutenant Commander Mo Taylor, and he did a phenomenal job. Please go ahead and view that. So you would get a lot of your answers from that one of where it should be more tailored towards, right? So it's a mix of everything you mentioned. It's a mix of personal characteristics, potential, or career achievements. So that's good. All right. So great questions. All right. And before we part, JG Miles, any last minute words or last few words to the group before we say bye?
I don't have much to add, but I will say, for those of you that are applying, just keep at it. Start early. I think that, the first two times when I didn't get selected, I always started around that October, November timeframe as soon as results came out. So denial doesn't necessarily mean, or not getting selected doesn't mean denial. Sometimes it's just a delay. So keep at it, do your best, and myself definitely here to assist and help as much as I can. If I tell you to read, I'm not being mean. I just know that the answer is in the instruction. I think I kind of scare people off when I say that. Like
No,
they don't know that.
no, I feel you because I think people get a little get turned off too when I say, "Did you watch the
Yeah.
videos? Did you go there?" Like, some people just want the answer right away, and it's. I think it's our society right now. Everybody wants the information right away, so they want instant because Google gives it. It's Google, Siri, and Alexa gives it to us right away. Why can't you give it to me right away, sir, ma'am?
Mhm.
But yes, read over it. But yeah, those are good suggestions, and um, please feel free to add any comments, suggestions to us. Oh, that's my doggy coming in. Hello. Another thing too, a lot of people are suggesting topics that we should cover. I just want to point out to the group too, we're building a foundation, right? And this is the foundation we're trying to cover first about the MSC. The last series we talked about MSC, IPP. Then we built it towards the CO recommendation, letters of recommendation. Now we're in the series of like chopping up the OpNav application, which was our last video, and now the personal statement. So eventually we'll get to the networking part. Yes, we'll also have episodes about mock interviews. We'll invite senior MSC officers in here, and we'll pick one of you, right, to be here, and you'll answer a question from one of these MSC officers. So I'm excited for that. We have a lot planned for this platform. So thank you so much for spending your 40 minutes ish time with us. Until next time, thank you and have a good night, everybody.
See you guys. Have a good night. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks. Bye.